All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning. If I could, I'd like to call our, this is, even though we're in June, it's technically our July meeting. We move it forward a week so that we avoid the July 4th holiday. But I'd like to call the July meeting of the North Carolina Board of Transportation to order and welcome everyone to Wilmington. And we've had a great trip here the last couple of days. I want to give particular thanks to Landon Zimmer and his team. They put together a great tour and itinerary and events where we got to see a lot of the transportation infrastructure going on in this area and the needs and what's being done about it, as well as meet a lot of local elected officials, a lot of MPO and RPO members, folks who are interested in transportation. So I hope all of you enjoyed that and had some good conversation. I know I did. And thanks especially to Karen, too, the division engineer. I know she's hiding back there in the corner, but she did a great job of putting all the logistics together, so thanks, Karen. Our first item of business is always a fun one. We're going to swear in some new board members, two new board members, Thomas Taft and Mike Alford, and then we're going to re-swear in 3 board members who are switching seats so that we can keep everything legal. We don't want anybody to question anybody's actions down the line. So if I could, we're privileged to have the Honorable Richard Russell Davis here to do our swearing in for us. Judge Davis, if you could come up. And then we'll start with Thomas Taft Jr. And Thomas, if you want to come up and you have any family members or anybody who would like to be here. I know you've got your dad, Thomas Taft Sr., and you've got your wife, right? Yeah. Oh, and you've got some high-powered help coming. I like that. Katie, where would it be best for them to do this so you can get a good picture?
I'm going to take them right here, so if
okay.
we move this way just a teeny tiny bit. There we go. There, now we're talking.
Is there anything I can do to help you?
I'm good. I'm just going to keep going down the line. I was told I had 2 swearing-ins, but I've got 5. And I basically do a very shortened version, and all you have to do is say, I do at the end. Okay? So, if you will please place your left hand on that Bible and raise your right. Do you, Thomas F. Taft, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States? And do you, Thomas F. Taft, solemnly swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof? And do you and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States? And do you, Thomas F. Taft, solemnly swear that you will and truly execute the duties of your office as a member of the Board of Transportation according to the best of your skill, ability, according to law, so help you God? I do. Congratulations.
Fix that. Okay.
Yeah.
Can we get one without the goldfish?
Come on.
You know how to say cheese?
Very
You say cheese? Wow.
Alan, that looked like you may have done that before.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations, Taft. I'll get you to come on over here. He is. Sign these. Go ahead and sign yours. Sign 2 copies. And I will sign all these at the end. That was great. Thank you.
All right, can we get Mr. Alford to come on?
Judge Howard is all.
Sounds good. All right. Do you, Mr. Alford, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States? And do you, Michael K. Alford, solemnly swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States? And do you, Michael K. Alford, solemnly swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of your office as a member of the Board of Transportation according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God?
I will.
Congratulations.
Size to make sure it's not
Okay.
size. Would you all mind stepping out just a little? Thanks. There we go. We're good. Thank you.
Great. I'm going to get you to sign here.
Sure, thank you.
Bonus section.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Congratulations.
You want to come up next?
Oh, absolutely.
Jay, you know how many copies we need signed?
Makes me so great. And you got a cheap suit. You got
Mr. Alford, I'm going to get you to sign one more.
Yeah.
And I think we had 2. Unless there's another one in there.
How do I look, Jack?
Great. I'm going to get you to sign more.
You'll swear it in.
I get Thomas to sign it. Got one more for you. I don't know, I used to ask you.
I got to get you to sign 3 of these at the end.
Mike.
Mr. Hunt, right?
No, this is Mr. Overhaul.
He just told me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Got it.
They're going by age.
Award
rating.
I thought we were going by good looks and integrity.
The Bible's going to help.
If you'll place your left hand on the Bible, somebody will call you out on this if they see a picture of your hand up. All right. Do you, Hugh Overholt, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States? And do you, Hugh Overholt, solemnly swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of the said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States? And do you, Hugh Overholt, solemnly swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of your office as a member of the North Carolina Board of Transportation according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God?
I will.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Gray.
It's great.
We'll get you signed 2 more.
The third one is signing over all your assets.
already close. That will worry me. Thank you.
Thank you, congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, Hugh, one more picture.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Picture.
Want a formal picture? Yep.
Great, thank you. Grady Hunt, you want to come up?
All right, left hand on the Bible, raise your right.
Congratulations.
Okay. Do you, Grady Hunt, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States? Do you, Grady Hunt, solemnly swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established, the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of the said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States? And do you, Grady Hunt, solemnly swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of your office as a member of the North Carolina Board of Transportation according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Perfect. One more.
All right. I'll get you signed.
Valerie, are you on the phone?
I'm here.
Great, welcome. Is Gus on the phone, do you know? Okay. Last but not least, Landon Zimmer, if you would come up.
Left hand on the Bible, raise your right. Do you, Landon Zimmer, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States? And do you, Landon Zimmer, solemnly swear that you will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that you will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States? And do you, Landon Zimmer, solemnly swear that you will well and truly execute the duties of your office as a member of the North Carolina Board of Transportation according to the best of your skill and ability, according to law, so help you God? Congratulations.
You signed your life away.
Get you to sign.
Anybody feel left out, want to get where you're sworn in? We got the judge here.
Don't waste
We
the
got some
good.
extra hooks.
That's right. Yeah.
Who do I need to give them to when I'm done? Okay, I'll do that. Take all these. Don't get to sign them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge Davis. We appreciate you taking the time out of what I know is your busy day. Once I learned what level of court you were, that you're a district court judge, I have some sympathy for you, as that's what my wife does. And I know how her days are. She goes in sometimes and says there's 700 people on my docket today. So we know you're busy and we appreciate your time. So thank you. All right, just to summarize, in case anyone wasn't keeping a score sheet, what we just did there, we welcomed new member Thomas Taft. He's the new member for Division II. General Overholt, who was formerly the member from Division II, is moving over to the rural at-large seat, which was what Mr. Hunt occupied, and he's moving over to the Division VI board seat, which Mr. Hutchins was formerly in. Then we welcomed Mike Alford into the Division III seat, which was the seat that Landon Zimmer formerly sat in, and he moved over to the Ports and Aviation at Large, which was the seat formerly occupied by Mr. McComas, who we're proud to have with us this morning. Danny joined us at dinner the other night, and we've got a little something special for him a little later in the program. So welcome to everyone, and thanks for your patience in this little reshuffling we're doing, but we're very confident that you all do a great job in your new roles, and welcome to the board.
Mr. Chairman, point of order, I should point out that everyone else has changed seats except for General Overholt, which I think is appropriate. We remain.
Well, I think they've got to surround Mike Alford by lawyers, you know, Greg and Hugh, you know. All right. We've got a quorum, and we've got Valerie Jordan on the phone. Valerie, thank you for joining us. We appreciate that you could not make the trip, but thank you for calling in to participate this morning.
Thank you guys. I miss you guys.
All right. We're going to start with the ethics statement in accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, Executive Order Number 2, issued on January 12, 2009, and NCGS Section 143B-350. It is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearances of conflict. To comply with this statement and the state ethics law, I ask whether any board member has any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before the board today. If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict when the item appears on the agenda for consideration, refrain from any undue participation in the particular matter involved, and sign before our notary the declaration that has been provided to you for such purpose. I will note for our new members, typically what we do is once we get to the action item of the agenda, I'll remind everyone if you have any conflicts of interest or if there are any items that you shouldn't vote on because of a conflict, just let me know at that time, and I'll give everyone a chance to go around the room. I also understand that if you're, depending on what kind of time and opportunity you had to meet with your division engineer, if you don't feel comfortable voting on the action items this month, you can recuse yourself from that too. So we've got a quorum and enough members, so don't worry about that. So, all right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the May 31, 2018 meeting minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those? Sensing yes, is there a motion for approval?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Billy, second by Hugh. I think that was Hugh. Okay, yes, gotcha. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Great, thank you, Mike. Thanks for calling in. I know you had something scheduled out of town, so we appreciate you participating as well. So we've got Mike Wells and Valerie Jordan on the phone. All right, the next agenda item is our road naming portion, which is always a favorite of mine because we get to honor North Carolina citizens who've made great contributions to our state. So at this time, I'm going to ask our Vice Chair, Nina Schlossberg Landis, if she would come up and make the motion for the Charles O. Lovett sign resolution.
This is a resolution for Charlie O. Lovett. Whereas Charlie O. Lovett was born on July 20th, 1900 in Wilkes County, North Carolina, and was the ninth of 13 children to James Nelson and Lily Riggs Lovett. Mr. Lovett was a citizen and a resident of Wilkes County for his entire life. And whereas Mr. Lovett learned to grow crops from an early age, and from the ages of 14 to 18, he spent his summers farming and worked as a teamster during the winter. He also worked for R.J. Reynolds and in the coal mines in West Virginia from 1918 to 1923 during the winters, and returned to farming in Wilkes County in the growing season. And whereas Mr. Lovett married Ruth Bumgardner and bought his first truck in 1924 to go into the produce business for himself. He traveled throughout the foothills and mountains of Wilkes, buying eggs, and chickens and ham and other farm products to sell at markets in Winston-Salem and Charlotte. He and Ruth raised 7 children, all of whom worked on their farm located on Pleasant Home Church Road and in the business. His produce business provided a market for local farmers to sell and trade their produce to supplement family farm income. From the early 1930s through World War II, chicken production progressed from barnyard chicken to hothouse chickens, providing Mr. Lovett and farmers in western Wilkes County more chickens to sell. And whereas Mr. Lovett's trucks delivered live chickens from Wilkes to processing plants in the major cities along the East Coast, at the same time, he continued with his egg and produce business. In 1946, he sold the live chicken business to his oldest son, C. Fred Lovett. He continued to run his smaller farm-raised food produce and trucking business, in which he partnered with J.C. Bumgardner to form Lovett Egg Company. Fred Lovett, with his father's help and support, grew his business into what became Holly Farms Poultry Industries, the largest chicken company in the mid-Atlantic states. The other 6 Lovett children followed their oldest brother and all worked in the commercial chicken business. And whereas Mr. Lovett was instrumental in laying the foundation that grew and integrated poultry farming in Wilkes County through Holly Farms into the largest company in the world during the 1970s, with operations in North Carolina, Maryland, and Texas. In 1989, Holly Farms was acquired by Tyson Foods, and today this chicken business generates more than $300 million in gross annual revenue, employs 3,300 people, and supports 200 family farms in Wilkes County. And whereas Mr. Lovett was a leader in Millers Creek area and helped secure the new North Carolina 16, which links Boone Trail to US 421, and whereas the Wilkes County Board of Commissioners desires to honor the life and achievements of Charlie O. Lovett and express the appreciation of this county and its citizens for the service he has rendered for this community, state, and nation, and whereas the Wilkes County Board of Commissioners requested to name North Carolina 16 north of the intersection of US 421 to the intersection with Boone Trail in Wilkes County, North Carolina, be named the C.O. Lovett Highway in his honor. Now therefore be it resolved that the North Carolina Board of Transportation names North Carolina 16 from the intersection of US 421 to the intersection with Boone Trail, State Road 1372 in Wilkes County as the C.O. Lovett Highway.
I'll take that as a motion from Nina. Is there a second? Second by John. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you, Nina.
All right, our next one is for Officer Stephen Levi Amos II, and if we could, we've got members of the family, if you'd like to come up while we read it, that would be great. Just come on over here in front of me. We have Jeffrey Watson, who's Stephen's uncle. Jacob Watson, his first cousin. Stephen L. Amos Sr., his father, and Ginger Amos, his mother. Welcome and thank you for coming. I'm going to read the resolution, make the motion, we'll take action, and if you'd like to say a few words, we would love for you to tell us a little bit about Officer Amos. This is a resolution for Officer Stephen Levi Amos II, whereas it was proposed that the 158 Bridge over the Northern Beltway in the Walkertown community be dedicated to the memory of Officer Stephen L. Amos II, who was killed in the line of duty on February 28, 1995. And whereas the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners supports the request to dedicate the bridge in the honor of Officer Stephen L. Amos II. Now therefore let it be it resolved that the Board of Transportation names the US 158 bridge over the Winston-Salem Northern Beltway in Forsyth County as the Officer Stephen Levi Amos II Bridge. I'll make that in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second by Jack. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. And thank you, Mike. I hear you and Valerie on the phone. I know that Officer Amos was a Winston-Salem police officer who lost his life in the line of duty, and he was very involved in the community. And the letters of support that we had from the community, as well as the family, the local elected officials, and a unanimous letter from the Forsyth County Legislative Delegation are very impressive and speak volumes about Officer Amos and his contribution to the community. If someone would like, you're welcome to come forward and say a few words.
Good morning. Good morning. On behalf of the family, we just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to be able to come before you today. And I guess you accept this honor on Stephen's behalf. As mentioned, he was a law enforcement officer that was committed to his community, committed to his state. As I heard the oath of office being taken by several of you, I couldn't help but think about the oath that he took to protect and serve the citizens of Winston-Salem. He did lay down his life doing that on February 27th of 1995. He was protecting others and preventing others from harm on that day. This will be an honor for him, and it is greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, if you would come up and be in the picture with us, that would be great. I've got a few of these that we're going to have. We'll maneuver for a picture here. Katie will tell us how to best arrange ourselves.
Let's get a little bit in front of the podium, if you don't mind. We can all stand one and one.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, it's convenient that the Secretary is up here because our next agenda item is Secretary Trogdon's remarks. So I welcome Secretary Trogdon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Great opportunity to talk a little more about what we mentioned last night, or what a wonderful June it was with the Department of Transportation in the state of North Carolina. This month we were awarded our first major infra grant award, the biggest one that I can remember throughout our highway and bridge program, for $147 million to improve both I-95 first phase of major widening, and also US 70 to Interstate 42 to get it to interstate standards, as well as being able to leverage new technology, expand technology within those facilities by adding 300 miles of fiber optics. Through a P3 effort, we'll be extending that out to help extend broadband capability throughout eastern North Carolina, and that's really the first step in how we can do this across the state, as well as extend it to other elements of infrastructure that we believe will be important as well moving forward. Then also in June, after probably a year of good hard work, the General Assembly authorized and the governor signed this past week Build-in C, which allows us to authority to sell up to $3 billion in bonds over the next 10 years, focus on the regional and division tiers of STI, as we'll continue to use Garvey to focus on the statewide tier and really keep leveraging the acceleration that we're doing with projects across the state. Our goal is to sustain the target of 2.6 billion a year, up from 1.7 for the next 5 years, using Build NC as the tool. And then yesterday, after another at least 10 months of hard work, we were able to sign the agreement with CSX Railroad that will allow us to move forward with the Carolina Connector up in Nash and Edgecombe County. And as you remember, that was a project that we already had agreements on moving forward in concept. However, with the new business model and new leadership coming to CSX last year, those projects, not only in North Carolina, but across the nation, many of those were canceled, but we were able to work with CSX to find a solution that continues to support their new business model, but also expands intermodal opportunities from the triangle all over eastern North Carolina. You've got a summary sheet there at your desk on just the benefits of the project, but it is transformational. Will allow us many other opportunities moving forward, not only in enhancing transportation, but also in economic development. So thanks to the team led by David Howard, Julie, Bobby, all of our rail division consultants. We had a big team working on that, but we really appreciate all their efforts, and we really appreciate getting this project will be started by January. This month also is the STI process. Regional scores and projects are out for comment, and so I think the deadline is July 9th. Please make sure everyone's engaging there. We really appreciate the division's effort in working with their local transportation partners, but also our programming and prioritization folks for their hard work. This effort will conclude the regional, then the regional scores will be complete, and then we'll go in the fall with the division level. So thanks for all your efforts. I don't need to tell you that without STI, without what we're doing in project acceleration, there would be no Build NC. And so it's all about how we can deliver on our commitments and accelerate those commitments across the state, which makes us successful. So thanks for everything that you're doing as board members and in our divisions in our modal areas to make sure we're getting these projects done. And the STI process is allowing that kind of confidence that gets us there. This month I also had a wonderful opportunity to recognize a retired DOT engineer at an event which recognizes women's contribution to construction and engineering. And I was there to recognize Emily Brown Blunt. Emily retired back in the 90s, but she was a lot of firsts. She was the first civil engineering graduate from what was State College in 1953. She was the first woman engineer hired at the Department of Transportation. She was the first woman licensed professional engineer in North Carolina, and she served us wonderfully for 40 years. She's got a wonderful story to tell, but just to give you a little bit of perspective on her character, you know, people were asking her, what was your challenge? You know, what were the hurdles you had to overcome, you know, as being the first woman? She said it was none, it was easy. You know, she just took advantage every day, pushed hard. And to give you a little indication, she didn't tell me how old she was, but I can do math, so I know she's in her 80s. And over the last few years, she's been bungee jumping from bridges in New Zealand. Like I told the group there in my 30 minutes of conversation with Emily, I can tell you at 80, she's a Spitfire. I can't imagine what she was like between 1950 and 1990 when she retired. So wonderful opportunity to recognize her at that event, and very important that we keep attracting women to our industry because we need them to be successful in the future. Today, it's about 25% of our ranks, and we know we're going to work hard to recruit them in the next few years. It's a great opportunity also to recognize we have a new rail director. So Jason, would you please stand up? Jason has worked with the Rail and Project and Program Management at NCDOT for 23 years. He started as a co-op engineering student for a major Class 1 railroad in 1994. He joined the Rail Division in 2000 as a senior project engineer and subsequently held the role as engineering manager since 2013 in the design and construction branch. He's been a leader in our statewide rail projects and initiatives, including statewide highway rail grade crossing warning device program and the Piedmont Improvement Program, which was the state's largest multi-year railroad infrastructure program, significantly accelerated through the ERA funding, and Jason was instrumental in making sure we got all of those projects done in a timely manner so we could maximize all of those resources. He has a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the only really excellent university in North Carolina producing those graduates, and is a registered professional engineer, so please welcome Jason. In his new role as the Rail Division Director. Last, I'd like to, let's see, where's Danny?
It's hiding in the corner.
Okay. Danny McComas. As you know, Danny served here on the Board of Transportation, but also on the Ports Board as a representative in the House, but really was a valued member of our team. We had not had a chance to give him the Road Gang Member Award here at DOT, so since we were here in Wilmington where he resides, perfect time to recognize his contribution to transportation, and not only for us, but for all of transportation and everything he's done in service of NCDOT and transportation in North Carolina. So thank you so much. Thank you, Jim.
Katie takes a picture of it.
I got to shake your hand.
Thank you. It's great to be back, and just want to let you know that I miss you guys. It was fun while we were doing it, while we were here, and welcome to Wilmington. I'm glad you're here, and I trust that you had a great time, and Landon did a great job of putting this together. And I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Danny, and you were a great board member, a great servant to the state of North Carolina, so we appreciate your service, and I know that Landon and Mike will both feel free to call upon your expertise for any advice you need. Thank you. All right, we've got our next section is the information section of our agenda. Just for the record, items C, D, E, H, and L are delegated to the secretary and require no formal action by the board. On item C, two notes on one project. All bids were rejected for the project on page 2 of 27. The remaining were awarded by the secretary to the low bidder. That project was delayed last month in Mecklenburg County. The project that was delayed last month in Mecklenburg County was recently awarded to the secretary, by the secretary to the low bidder. So that cleans up that portion of our information items and delegated authority. The product evaluation program analysis, that's at your seat. I would encourage you to review that and contact the members of the product evaluation program team if you have any questions or would like any more information about those items. There's also a cash balance handout that's at your place, and we continue to make good progress in that. So if you have any questions about that, you can contact Evan Rodenwall, our CFO, and he will be glad to answer those questions for you. The action items of our agenda section, the first one we have is the approval of the Southport and Fort Fisher ferry resolution. You've all had a first-hand chance to actually see and ride that ferry now, so and understand the importance of it and how many citizens and non-citizens even it carries
on a daily basis. You received a presentation on this during the May 30th board meeting, and a copy of the resolution is there for your review. Are there any questions or discussions on this item? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval? Motion by Tony, second by Landon. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, it is the section of our agenda for approval of specific projects, and this is the opportunity, if you have any items you'd like to recuse yourself from the vote from, we'll record those for our minutes now. John, you've got one, I believe.
I do. Mr. Chairman, out of an abundance of caution, I need to abstain from voting on the item O handout. This is in Division 4, Edgewood County, P-5711.
Okay, thank you. If you note that, if you fill the paperwork out on that and give it to our Secretary Stephanie, that would be great. Tony?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to abstain from item O on page 3, Johnston County Project R-3825B, improvements on NC 42.
Okay, thank you. If you do the appropriate paperwork. Any others? Landon?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With abundance of caution due to a potential conflict, I'd like to recuse myself from voting on agenda item K3 as well.
Okay. Any on this side of the table? All right. Oh, Mike?
Mr. Chairman, just abundance of caution, page 22, Y-481 OK.
Okay, great. Anyone else? I've got 3 that I need to recuse myself from. Item G3, the road deletion in Guilford County, and then also item K7, which is U2581BA, and then the third one is item R10, which is a right-of-way disposal. So I'll fill out the paperwork on that.
Thank you, Don. All right, those are all the recusals. Is there any discussion on any of the items? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right, motion by Billy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jack. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, those pass unanimously. In closing, I just want to highlight a few things you're going to see for next month. You've got a copy at your seat of the proposed revisions to the use of specific funds for internal improvement at public schools. You'll see that next month, and it was reviewed last month by the Highway Committee, and Chairman Tarleton of the Highway Committee recommended the proposed policy changes be approved, and that our full board will vote on this item during its August meeting. If you have any questions, certainly ask Kevin Lacey. Kevin's here if you want to catch him here, but he's also always available for you. Our next board meeting will be August 1st and 2nd in Raleigh, so we're back to our normal schedule. I did want to say a couple things before we leave this meeting. First, the Secretary thanked everyone for their involvement in the STI process and the division members working with MPOs and RPOs about assigning points for projects. I just want to kind of reiterate the importance of that, because unlike some things you do on this board, that's something that you in a 4-year term, you get to do twice. It happens every other year. And so I know that, Hugh, and Pat and Jack have been through this before, and so they know the ropes, but I think everybody else, this is their first time through. And so make sure, you spend the time with your division engineers and your MPOs and your RPOs to get good input on assigning those points from the division and making good decisions, because that's the rolling 10-year plan, and you don't get a second bite at this once it gets going. So take the time to make sure that you spend on that. And I always find it very educational because I learn a lot about projects in the division, you know, the details of them. So I wanted to emphasize the importance of that and thank our division staff because they do a good job of helping our MPOs and RPOs put all that together. So the second thing is just in closing to reminisce a little bit about our meeting here the last couple of days. I really want to thank the government staff. They did a good job of putting all the details together, and then Landon and Karen, y'all did a great job planning everything and working with the folks in the community. Tuesday night or Tuesday afternoon was great at the ports. I know everyone learned something. Everyone probably has a crick in their neck from looking up at how tall those new cranes are. So that's impressive. And I would encourage you, the folks at the ports, would love to give you a more detailed tour if you're down in this area at some point. So just call them and let them know. And Landon will probably come with you. He likes to go up in the big crane, I think. And then yesterday, as we were traveling, we had such a great tour of projects of all modes from Mike Kozlowski with the MPO. He did a great job, and I mean that was about the most information I'd gotten in 35 minutes, I think, in my life. So that was very impressive. Thank you, Mike. And we got to truly see a lot of different needs and learn a lot about the growth in this area. And then we had a great presentation on the history, the maritime history of the area from the state's chief underwater archaeologist on our ride down to Fort Fisher. And then at Fort Fisher, we got to hear about the importance of the transportation system to those attractions there, the state park, the state recreation area, and the aquarium, and how we support that. And then we got to ride the ferry, which I checked with the ferry division folks, and to their knowledge, the full board has never been on a ferry ride before, so you've achieved a first, and it was very successful. We had a good ride, it was smooth, and we all got safely to the other side, which happens all the time, every day, and sometimes we take that for granted, how good our operation is and how safe it is. And when we got back on the bus and we were riding from the ferry to Southport, I leaned over to Karen, who was sitting beside me, and I said, don't take this as any pressure, but if we just quit right now, it's been a great day. I mean, we've seen so much in about 2.5 hours that it was just tremendous, but it just got better from there because we certainly had a great discussion with the staff at the Maritime Museum there at Southport about the maritime history and travel of the area throughout history. And then I got to tell you, I don't know exactly where we're going to travel next year, but wherever we go, y'all will have a hard time beating the lunch yesterday. That was something else, and it was very kind of Mayor Dove and Southport to host us for that, and that was the Secretary and I were talking. That's a great example of why we like to do this and why it's so good for us to get out and see things and talk to people, because they had their entire town council there. They had the mayors of several other surrounding cities, and I know I had some great conversation with all of them, and I know they talked to a lot of folks around the room. And I think it was particularly helpful that we not only had our division engineers and our senior staff, but we also had all of the division heads of the multimodal staff with us. And I can remember there was one of the council persons from Southport, was talking to me about some bike ped issues. And I said, well, hang on just a second, let's walk over here. And I walked right over to Hannah and Julie and introduced them. And I know they had a good conversation. And so that's really the value of doing what we're doing when we're traveling, is making those connections in local communities and understanding what their needs are and how we can help with them. So, and then our road tour after that, we got to see a lot of new projects and a lot. We learned that you can't turn left on a super street, right, Karen? So it's a lesson I have to keep reminding myself of. But so it was great to see that. And then of course last night was a fantastic event. I want to do a shout out to Natalie English again with the Chamber for putting that together. She did a great job hosting that and getting a great group of folks in the local community who are interested in transportation infrastructure to come out and talk with us and have some fellowship and understanding. So I think it was a remarkable success yesterday, and then look forward to, I'll be talking to folks, the board members who are interested in us traveling to their area next year. We can start doing the planning for that. So any discussion or any comments on any of that or anything we've done this week from anybody? I see we've worn you all out. I know I was tired when I got off the bus yesterday. So thank you. I know it is a long day. You know, it always amazes me when we go and we travel how much we do, and the irony of it is that we're really probably seeing 5% of what the divisions would like us to see when we travel somewhere. And it is, having hosted one ourselves, and Mr. Mills and I, you make some tough choices. I mean, you start out with 50 things you'd like to show them, and you know you can't do it. So kudos to Karen and Landon for getting that down to what we can see in a manageable time and still exhaust ourselves. So that's all I have for our meeting. If there's no other business in front of the board, I'll accept the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Motion by Hughes, is there a second? Second by Jack. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.